Welcome back. This week we're going to talk about observation and a little bit on assessment. So what is observation? It's the ability to take in information through one or more of the five physical senses. So what do you smell? What do you taste? What do you hear? What do you see? And it can be used, it needs to be used. So it's not just observing, but we're actually using what we observe to assess. And we can assess in different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean we're assessing the children. We can assess the environment. We can assess their physical health, safety, our own teaching methods, our curriculum planning, our communication, our guidance, evaluation of the program. We can also assess to refer children out and to assess so that we can better communicate with the family. The problem with observation, and which will always be a problem, is that it's very hard to be objective. It's very easy to be subjective. So when we observe something, we're always filtering it and processing it through our own theories and our own beliefs in what we're seeing. And so how would this affect how we observe? Well, we know that when we observe something, we believe that what we assume is correct, that we are the ones that are right. So even though two people could see a similar activity or see something that happens at the same time, there would be two very different ways of processing that. So say a child is at a circle time and you're sitting down and one of the children gets up and starts wandering. So one teacher might say, the child is not able to sit down for a long period of time and they disrupt the other children in the class by wandering. And another teacher might see that an observation and say, the child is restless and the teacher's not making the book or the circle time activity engaging enough. And so they're taking the same exact what they observed, but framing it differently. So subjective means that you are observations that cannot be seen. So they're ideas, thoughts, or opinions. So I just gave a very subjective observation on the child moving. So instead of saying subjectively, the child got up from the circle time and moved around because they were bored and the teacher was not engaging enough, you would say, during circle time, a child stood up, walked to the back room, picked up a pencil, sat down at the table. So you are objectively, you're not influenced by personal feelings, interpretations, or prejudice. You are just observing objectively what is happening. So if you can see it, feel it, hear it, or smell it, it is an objective observation. So looking at this picture, what do you observe? So when I show this in class, a lot of people are questioning, what is that on them? Is it whipped cream? Is it shaving cream? It's hard to be objective. If you were actually there, you would be able to smell that it is indeed shaving cream, because shaving cream has a pretty distinctive smell to it. So it is shaving cream that the child is putting on their body. Subjectively, you might be uncomfortable with this. And so that might come out in your observation, where it is messy. You might use words such as messy, or teachers aren't paying attention. So some of the things that you have, your past, your understanding, your belief system is being projected onto this activity. What about here? What do you observe here? When I show this in class, a lot of students always, there's always somebody that says it looks like they're in a gang. So it looks like a little boy gang. They're, throwing up symbols and on their bikes and so when we observe, do we want to put gang in there because that has a negative connotation, doesn't it? When we say they're showing symbols, that would be a negative connotation. So what kind of words can you use to adequately describe what's happening in this picture without putting your own thoughts and feelings onto it? And again, this one, some of you are looking at this thinking that's really cool. Some of you are thinking, oh, I would never touch that. And what you can't see is that there's a child in the back of the room standing on top of a tabletop. And that would be me if I were a child in that classroom. And what do you observe here? Is it, it's a boy that's dressed in dresses. How do you feel about this? Are you okay with boys dressing in dresses? And conversely, are you overly okay in making sure that nobody says anything negative and defensive about a boy dressing in dresses? So we want to make sure we don't label a child. So if I were to label those boys in a boy gang, you don't want to label them, because that again brings in a lot of different feelings from other people. So think of a child that you know and make a list, pause the video, make a list of words to describe the child. And let's go through and see, did you label or describe them? If you described them, you might have said blonde, blue-eyed, dark hair. If you said dark skin, is that objective or subjective? Because what's dark to you may not be dark to me, or vice versa. Did you say happy, easy, difficult, any of those words? Look for specific details. So the number of kids, the number of adults, the kinds and amounts of materials, the lifespan of the activity, how long did it last? Whoops. And directness. Always record direct quotes. If a child said it, even if it was not grammatically correct, we always want to write down exactly what they say. So I would do this in class, but observe the picture for 20 seconds, and then you're going to answer some questions over here. So are there cars parked on the side of the road? What kind of color is the pickup truck? Any minivans around? What does the blue sign say? What's the speed limit? Are there any pedestrians? And so why would we do this? We know that we have a hard time sometimes remembering details accurately. So think about yesterday. What did you do yesterday for lunchtime? What did you eat? Can you write down exactly how long the process took, what you did during every part of that process? It's harder the longer we go away from it. What did you do last month on this date for lunch? It's harder as we get away from the activity, and so remembering it needs to happen right after or during. And we know that even in testimony, when we talk about expert or testimony, witness testimony, people that are there at an accident, that people remember things differently, and it's because they bring in their own biases and their own belief system into what they saw. We are going to, I can show you this. It doesn't have the sound, but it is about the it's an observation test, and it says how many passes does the team in white make? So you're looking at this and counting how many. Okay, so the answer is 13. Did you get 13? But did you see the moonwalking bear while you were watching it? So now look for the bear. So sometimes there are things that you're not looking for that you miss. Sometimes what we say is important as what we see. So how would we write this? Joshua is a very bad today at circle time. He never listens or sits still. He always wiggles and disturbs his neighbor, and I have to sit with him and hold him. What are the words used to describe Joshua? What do you think if you were to read this or somebody was to say this, what kind of images would it conjure up in your own head about who Joshua is? What is a teacher's opinion of this child? We can see pretty plainly that this teacher is fed up with him. And so how does that translate when the teacher talks about this child to anybody? Another child, a parent, another teacher? What kind of subjective feelings are being placed on this child? So here's a different way to say it. Joshua jumped up and down from his seat at circle time, sitting still for approximately 1 minute at a time, and then getting up and standing or walking away. Each time I brought him back to the circle and sat him back down. When sitting, he poked the child next to him and talked to him. I sat down with Joshua and asked him if he would sit on my lap. He agreed. He leaned against my chest, sucked his thumb, and listened to the story for 5 minutes. Do you see the difference between that? Do you feel like the teacher is exasperated with this child? The first one, she definitely was. This one is more an objective. This is exactly what happened. So we want to, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we want to say, we want to avoid absolutes. So, always, often, those kind of, always is, you might want to say often. You also want to avoid the child likes, the child loves, he enjoys, because how do you know that? You can say that the child is smiling. You can say that they often choose this activity or they spend a long time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they love that. You're projecting your own understanding or what you believe to be true onto that child. So this is blurry, but this is a DRDP. And when we talk about observations, we do tie it to assessments of the child. And so when we talk about authentic assessments, we want to make sure that it is an ongoing process. This does not happen just one and done. It needs to be done over time. And so you can see progression for a child or regression. Any authentic assessment is not done just by one teacher. It's done with input from all of the teachers, the parents, and the children. And always our authentic observation or assessments rely on observation. So we have to be watching the child to understand how we can assess the child.